Guys, we have so much Stadia news today, from a new game dropping, another May Pro game announced, a completely new redesign in the store, game sales I don't think I've ever seen before, an eye-opening report on just how profitable Stadia can be for your game, and so much more. Let's dive straight into it, and thumbs up for the algorithm. So we did get word of Stadia's 4th Pro game for May. That is Kaze and the Wild Mask, an absolutely excellent indie platformer that released around this time last year. The game has been super well loved, has tons of overwhelmingly positive user reviews, and as the title of the game suggests, using different masks to unlock different abilities to tackle the levels you're on. It's a solid title, but I have to say I am hoping that we do see Deliver Us to the Moon, as if you guys remember, that was actually supposed to be part of April's Pro lineup, but the game ended up getting delayed. So if that game comes, overall I think May is very solid, but of course we'll see. And speaking of games, let's go through the news in that respects. And House of Dead launched yesterday on Stadia, and I told you guys I'd cover this if gyro controls were part of it, but they are not. Now, we had gotten word of some code being worked on some time ago under the hood with Stadia in regards to things like motion controls, so I think we all assumed that this game would launch with those motion controls. Well, the game's now available and no motion controls to be found, so I imagine the game will be pretty clunky to play just using your gamepad joystick. Nonetheless, if you're feeling nostalgic, this game is now available on the Stadia store to play. Personally, I'm gonna hold off and wait to see if we do get those controls, those new motion controls. With that, we also thought we were getting Overcooked this April, and we're about to hit May. There was no word of it until now. Apparently we're getting a slight delay. It's going to be coming on May 5th, so we'll have to wait a little bit longer for, in my opinion, the best party game franchise out there, period. I'm very excited. Stay tuned, as I do think I'm going to be covering this one. Now, jumping to some news that is certainly a bit of a bummer. Outright Games had come out and talked about how Fast and the Furious Rise of the Shifter Arctic Challenge DLC won't be coming. What's interesting about this is that they tweeted, "We've contacted the Stadia team and they tell us it's not available at the moment. They're considering porting it. We'll transmit the desire of many players playing it on Stadia, and we see that quite a few are interested." Now, let me for a quick second put the fact that it's not coming aside and focus on the part where it says the Stadia team is the one doing the porting, or maybe I read that wrong, but I just wanted to point that out. Now, it seems as though some thought that this was going to come or listed to come, but apparently, according to Outright Games, DLC packs on Stadia is not part of the business plan. So that to me is really off, and I really feel there's just no excusing this. I mean, we're about to see in a later report in this video that these types of games are very profitable on Stadia, and DLC packs not being available is just not cool for the consumer. And going forward, if certain Outright Games are not going to have these DLC packs, I think a disclaimer in the store needs to be labeled as such, in my opinion, so as those purchasing these games are fully aware that they're not going to get access to future DLC. Now, I don't know how many of these people actually buy DLC packs for these games, but really this isn't something that I saw that made me too happy either way, especially from a consumer point of view. Really, there's just no excusing it. So I wanted you guys just to be aware of this, and we'll of course continue to monitor this going forward. Maybe Stadia responds and we kind of get a conclusion to this. With that though, in all these exchanges from Outright Games, they did mention more games are on the way coming from them, and they're right, as a new game just got rated in DC League of Super Pets. So as you guys can imagine, you're playing a pet and you're a superhero. Game actually looks pretty fun and quirky. I'm kind of digging it. All right, let's jump to something that I think is super positive and something that I've actually wanted to talk about for quite some time. And maybe I'll go further in this subject because I have a lot more to say other than what I'm about to in a podcast or a future video. But the developer of 100 Days Winemaking Simulator did a breakdown of their income, and one thing absolutely stood out. There's two graphs here. The left shows the copy distributions, the right shows income. Well, go ahead and take a look at how much Stadia Pro is a big piece of their pie. This is in the face of being released on the Switch and Android. Now Steam comes in with that 60%, which makes a lot of sense, but Stadia Pro is a huge chunk of their revenue. Now, the developer Yvesk from Winemaking goes on to say, "I suggest every indie dev that has games with gamepad support bring their game to Stadia and get an extra 20 to 25% in revenue." So none of this to me, guys, is actually shocking. This has actually been verbally mentioned by Yves and the Winemaking Simulator team for some months now. It's why people who think Stadia is not doing doing well or not performing well isn't true. There is a very good base of gamers enjoying this platform, and there is indie devs absolutely making money, especially if you bring a high quality indie game to the platform. Now, the problem has always been the bigger games, and while this news here, this is awesome news to see about the revenue for an indie dev, the bigger publishers and AA studios might not think it's enough, which is why the new porting tools comes into play and is meant to really drop the overhead costs and make it more profitable to bring your game to this platform. Essentially, the message that I want you guys to take from this piece of information here, and something that I've known for quite some time, is that yeah, being on Stadia as a developer is absolutely profitable. There's a sizable community enjoying this cloud platform, especially Stadia Pro, and stuff like this. You don't have to take my word for it, guys. Take the word of an actual developer making games on Stadia and telling you how it is profitable for them to be on here. So this is really encouraging, especially for the future. Hopefully this type of thing proves to more developers who are interested on being on Stadia and making a game for Stadia, and how it's a big deal for their overall, revenue. Especially, guys, and this is really key, Stadia expands into even more markets and a lot more people continue to join Stadia. So man, oh man, I thought this was really cool to see, and I'm so glad that the team over there is so transparent with all this information. I do want to apologize for being so long-winded. I'll go further on this topic later, but man, good stuff here, and I'm glad this was shared. With that, speaking of Stadia and moving forward in the world, we have a new redesign page in the Stadia store for games, and I have to say this looks much cleaner. Also love how front and center the demo is right in your face for you to try out something and play it, and I think that was really important to highlight. So I'm loving this. It's just cleaner. That's really the best way to describe it. And again, this is important because the store itself and the UI did need a little bit of a refresh in my opinion, so kudos here and good stuff. Finally, guys, let's hit the Stadia sales. We have some games we've never seen on sale before, or at least rarely have seen it. I admit my memory can definitely be a little bit hazy, but these are some really good ones and some really good sales. Let's start with potentially game of the week in regards to an awesome sale. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 comes in at $7.49. This is by far the cheapest I've seen it. This has been on sale before, I'm pretty sure, but not this cheap, and this is an amazing get. Even if you don't like fighting games, I think this is a really good one. Now, jumping to a game we haven't seen on sale before, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot comes in at $17.99, and I haven't had a chance to dive into it, but it's been well received on Stadia, and loving that 70% discount. FIFA 22, after winning the recent poll, comes in at $14.99. Nothing really new or special here. Katamari Damacy comes in at $9.89, which is a great price for the game. MotoGP 21, a game that launched on Stadia not too long ago, comes in at $9.99, but here you can actually demo the game before even buying it, so go ahead and do that. One Piece World Seeker sees a first-time sale. This one comes in at $22.49. Absolutely recommend the game at this price without a doubt. Another game rarely seen on sale to the point I can't even recall, or if it's just been a while, Samurai Showdown, a Stadia launch game, drops to $23.99, and I have played this one. I can't get into it like Mortal Kombat 11 just because it's not my thing, though. I still think it's a very high quality game when I did get to mess with it, and if you're into fighting games, yeah man, jump in there. Finally, The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel and the Yeast games are all on sale, and I'm just gonna throw them up on the screen, so if you guys are interested in those, go ahead and grab them. And I have to say, this was a very cool set of sales, very unique set of sales. Very happy to see it, and good stuff. With that, guys, click the video on the top left to find the best Stadia games that you should play this year, and as always, I'll see you in the clouds.